2 months have passed since the New York Knicks captured the 2026 NBA championship, ending a 53-year title drought that had haunted the franchise since 1973. The celebration is still fresh, but the NBA calendar waits for no one. In less than 3 months, the 2026-27 season tips off, and with it comes one of the most difficult challenges in professional sports: repeating as champion. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump into everything today, that like button right there is what decides if this video hits hundreds or thousands of people. 1 second is all it takes, but the impact on this channel is massive. Go ahead and hit that like button right now. Seriously, it's the simplest thing you can do, and honestly the best way to back this content up, because every single like pushes this further, so hit it now. The last NBA team to win back-to-back titles was the Golden State Warriors, who pulled off the feat in 2017 and 2018. Before that, it was LeBron James and the Miami Heat in 2012 and 2013, and Kobe Bryant's Los Angeles Lakers from 2000 to 2002. The common thread: every repeat champion in the modern era has been anchored by at least one transcendent all-time level superstar. That is the challenge now facing Jalen Brunson and the Knicks as they set their sights on becoming the first back-to-back champion since those Warriors teams nearly a decade ago. Looking at the data, the numbers paint a sobering picture. Since 2000, only 10 of the previous 26 NBA champions have returned to the finals the following year. Of those 10, 3 had Curry, 3 had LeBron, and 3 had Kobe. The lone exception was the 2004 Detroit Pistons, who lost in 5 games to the Spurs the following season. Without one of those 3 generational icons, no team has even made it back to the finals in the year after winning it all. Not since Detroit more than 2 decades ago. The Knicks, as currently constructed, are not that kind of overpowering juggernaut on paper, but they may not need to be. The Knicks finished the 2025-26 regular season with a net rating of plus 6.6, a figure slightly dragged down by a rough 2-9 stretch midway through the year. When the postseason arrived, however, something clicked. New York put together one of the most dominant playoff runs in recent memory, posting an extraordinary net rating of plus 16.1 across their championship march. Combined across all 102 games, including the NBA Cup final, the Knicks produced a net rating of plus 8.4. According to StatMuse, only 23 teams in the past 26 years have eclipsed the plus 8.0 mark in a single season. The Knicks are now one of them, but perhaps the most important factor heading into 2026-27 is not the roster depth or the salary cap situation. It is the man standing on the sideline. Head coach Mike Brown proved throughout the championship season that he trusts his entire roster, develops younger players in meaningful moments, and manages veteran bodies wisely across a brutal 82-game schedule. That philosophy paid off in historic fashion, and there is every reason to believe it will continue. The numbers bear this out in striking detail. Josh Hart, who had led the entire NBA in minutes per game at 37.6 during the 2024-25 season, saw his workload drop to 32 minutes per game under Brown in the championship year. According to Hart's longtime trainer Stefan Valdez, the reduced burden directly contributed to Hart's three-point shooting climbing from 32.2% all the way to a career-best 41.3%. He had fresher legs, Valdez explained to the New York Daily News. The difference was visible on the court and in the numbers throughout the season. The same load management approach applied across the entire rotation. Mikal Bridges played over 7 fewer minutes per game in the 2026 playoffs compared to his 2025 postseason workload. Karl Anthony Towns averaged just over 30 minutes per game, a notable drop from his 35.5-minute average the year before. Even Jalen Brunson, the team's primary engine and floor general, logged 36.9 minutes per game in the 2026 playoffs. Still a heavy load, but meaningfully lower than the 37.8 per game he averaged in the 2025 postseason under the previous staff. The depth Brown cultivated all season long was on full display in the title-clinching Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Brown used 12 players in that game. 10 of them logged at least 6 minutes on the floor. 9 played double-digit minutes. Landry Shamet went from averaging just 7.5 minutes per game in the 2025 playoffs to a crucial 16.3 minutes per game in 2026. Jordan Clarkson and Jose Alvarado, both on entirely different teams the season prior, delivered meaningful contributions when the championship stakes were at their absolute peak. The Eastern Conference will be a dramatically tougher battlefield in 2026-27. The Philadelphia 76ers brought in LeBron James and Jaylen Brown to bolster an already competitive core. The Boston Celtics return with a fully healthy Jason Tatum alongside Paul George. The Miami Heat made headlines by acquiring Giannis Antetokounmpo in a blockbuster trade. The Toronto Raptors are working toward a Kawhi Leonard reunion. The Detroit Pistons and Atlanta Hawks both added meaningful rotation pieces. Every team in the East circled the Knicks this offseason. A slow start to next season is a real possibility. The championship hangovers are well documented across professional sports, and every opponent on next year's schedule will be gunning for the defending champions from the very first tip. But with Mike Brown running the operation in a front office that has consistently made smart decisions, New York enters the 2026-27 season with a legitimate chance to accomplish what almost no team in the modern NBA era has managed to pull off, winning it all for the second year in a row. The New York Knicks have one of the deepest and most talented rosters in the NBA heading into the 2026-27 season. Jalen Brunson operates on a team-friendly contract while playing at an all-NBA level. Karl Anthony Towns is one of the most versatile big men in the game. The bench depth is elite, but perhaps the most intriguing player on the entire roster, and the one whose individual growth could determine whether the Knicks compete for multiple championships, is OG Anunoby. On one level, it is almost strange to frame Anunoby as a player with significant room to grow. He is widely regarded as one of the best two-way players in the entire NBA, a lockdown defender capable of guarding any position on the floor while also contributing meaningfully on the offensive end. His importance to the Knicks during their 2026 championship run was undeniable. He defended opposing teams' best perimeter scorers night after night, provided spacing on offense, and came through in critical moments when it mattered most. And yet, as the franchise looks toward the future, the question hanging over Anunoby is one of the most fascinating in the league. Can he take the next step and evolve from premier role player into a genuine first-tier star? The distinction matters far more than it might initially seem. In recent NBA history, the line between an elite role player and a true star is wide, and crossing it is something very few players ever accomplish. The clearest recent comparisons for Anunoby are Aaron Gordon on the Denver Nuggets and Derek White on the Boston Celtics, two players who were absolutely essential to their respective championship teams, both celebrated for their two-way impact, yet neither ever crossed over into genuine stardom at the highest level. Gordon was a crucial piece of Denver's 2023 title run. His ability to defend multiple positions while also serving as a reliable lob threat for Nikola Jokic was invaluable to that team's championship formula. He brought high energy, elite athleticism, and winning basketball on both ends of the floor every single night. Despite all-star conversations swirling around his name during and after that title run, Gordon never made the leap from role player to star. He remained one of the best complementary players in the league, an incredibly valuable asset, but not a leading man. Derek White's trajectory follows a remarkably similar path. His sharp three-point shooting and elite defensive abilities were central to Boston's title. He gave the Celtics extraordinary versatility and basketball intelligence on both ends. He was the kind of player who elevated his team in ways that rarely appeared in a traditional box score, taking charges, making the right pass, covering for teammates' mistakes. Yet despite legitimate all-star conversations, White never made the decisive jump into that upper tier of NBA stardom. Anunoby is already performing at a level comparable to, and in some important respects above, both of those players. His defensive impact is genuinely elite. He routinely shuts down the opposing team's most dangerous perimeter threat. His athleticism and length create problems for offenses that most players simply cannot replicate. His offensive game has shown real and consistent improvement over the past two seasons, particularly in terms of his shot creation and decision-making away from the ball. That combination of tools and upward development arc makes the idea of a leap to true stardom feel like a real possibility rather than mere optimism. The clearest pathway to that next level runs through the offensive side of the ball. Anunoby is not the primary creator for the Knicks. Brunson owns that role with confidence, but increasing his value as a ball handler and shot creator in pick-and-roll situations would open entirely new dimensions in New York's half-court offense and make him significantly harder to guard. If head coach Mike Brown continues to expand his role in those situations and trusts him with more decision-making when defenses collapse, the ripple effect on the entire team's offensive ceiling could be enormous. Health remains the other foundational pillar. Anunoby has dealt with injuries at various points in his career, but he has managed to stay on the floor consistently over the past two seasons. For a player at his stage of development, availability is not just helpful, it is essential. Every game he plays is another opportunity to sharpen his reads, add new wrinkles to his offensive game, and build the kind of chemistry with Brunson and Towns that only comes from repetition. That continuity must continue going into 2026-27. The Knicks do not strictly need Anunoby to become a first-option scorer to defend their title. Brunson handles that responsibility with remarkable consistency. But if Anunoby continues to develop as a creator while maintaining his elite defensive presence, New York becomes genuinely difficult to game plan against. Teams would have no clear weak link to attack, no obvious matchup to exploit. The rest of the NBA should be paying close attention to what that version of OG Anunoby looks like. Based on where he is right now and the arc he is on, that version might arrive sooner than anyone expects. The New York Knicks are defending NBA champions, but not every piece of their roster is locked in for the long haul. One of the most pressing questions of the 2026 offseason centers on guard Miles "Deuce" McBride, whose contract extension talks have hit a wall, and time is running out to fix that before the new season begins. According to the New York Post's Stephen Bondy, Tuesday represented what he described as something of a soft deadline for both sides to reach a deal on an extension. That deadline came and went without an agreement, but the reason this matters goes far beyond just the money. Bondy reported that if McBride signs an extension after Tuesday, he cannot be included in any trade before the midseason trade deadline next year. That is a significant piece of the puzzle for a front office that has repeatedly shown it values roster flexibility as much as it values individual talent. In other words, the Knicks are not simply negotiating a contract. They are deciding whether to lock McBride in as a long-term piece of this championship core or keep their options open for a potential blockbuster move at the deadline. That is the real story behind these talks. So who exactly is Deuce McBride and why does this matter so much? The former second-round pick out of West Virginia has developed into one of the most quietly important players on this roster over the past 3 seasons. He is not a star, but he is the kind of high IQ two-way guard that championship teams are built around in the supporting cast. He defends with relentless energy, makes winning plays, and has become a reliable three-point shooter who punishes teams that lose track of him. Last season, yes, the championship season, McBride posted career-high numbers across the board. He averaged 12.0 points per game alongside 2.6 assists and 2.4 rebounds. He shot 42.3% from the field and an impressive 41.3% from beyond the arc. Those are not bench player numbers. Those are numbers that earn real money on the open market. But the statistic that truly stands out is his net rating. McBride posted a plus 9.5 net rating last season, the highest of any Knicks player who appeared in at least 30 games, according to NBA.com advanced stats. That means the team was significantly better with him on the floor than off it. More so than any other regular rotation player on the defending champions. That kind of impact does not always show up in the box score, but it shows up in the win column. During the playoffs, McBride's role was reduced as head coach Mike Brown leaned on a tighter rotation in high-stakes matchups. But even in a smaller role, McBride delivered when asked, connecting on 37.5% of his three-point attempts across 19 postseason appearances. He was ready every time his number was called. Now he enters the 2026-27 season with just 1 year remaining on his current deal, set to earn just under $4 million. For a player of his caliber and impact, that number is a significant bargain for the Knicks, and a figure that almost certainly will not hold when he hits unrestricted free agency next summer. If McBride reaches the open market after next season, he will have every option available to him, and the Knicks could find themselves in a bidding war they may not win given the team's financial constraints under the second apron. The other major storyline running parallel to the McBride situation involves the team's need for frontcourt depth. SNY insider Ian Begley previously reported that New York reached out to multiple teams regarding a potential trade for a backup center behind Karl Anthony Towns. Currently, veteran Andre Drummond is the only other big man on the roster, a thin margin for a team with championship aspirations and the target on its back that comes with being the defending champions. These two situations are connected. The Knicks need to add a center. Adding one likely costs assets or salary, and if McBride is locked into an extension that restricts his trade eligibility, that limits the franchise's ability to maneuver. Every dollar and every roster spot matters when you are operating under the second apron rules that restrict how teams can build and improve. The Knicks won it all in June. But winning it again requires making difficult decisions in August when nobody is watching. The McBride extension situation is exactly that kind of decision. Unglamorous, complicated, and absolutely critical to what comes next for this franchise. McBride has earned the right to be paid. He was a second-round pick who outworked every expectation placed on him, developed his shot, sharpened his defense, and carved out a meaningful role on a team that just won the NBA title. His plus 9.5 net rating is not a coincidence. It reflects a player who has internalized winning basketball at a deep level. The question is not whether he deserves an extension. The question is whether locking him in now serves the Knicks' broader strategy better than keeping that roster slot flexible heading into the trade market. There is no easy answer, but the clock is ticking, the deadline has passed, and both sides will need to make peace with the outcome soon. The 2026-27 season opener is approaching fast, and the Knicks cannot afford to enter their title defense with unresolved business hanging over the locker room.